Just one moment. Okay. So I will now read.
I call this meeting. Oops, sorry. I call this meeting to order. The time is 7:06 p.m. The date is Wednesday, September 28th, 2022. Mr. Murillo, thank you for being here. Thank you for joining us at our first meeting, and now I'll let you read the advisory.
Public advisory. This meeting will be conducted exclusively through video conference and telecom. Oh, sorry, I'm getting an echo from YouTube. Okay, I fixed that problem. Again, I apologize. I'll start from the beginning. Public advisory, this meeting will be conducted exclusively through video conference and teleconference pursuant to Government Code Section 54953E and the state declared emergency. This meeting will be conducted exclusively through teleconference and Zoom video conference. The COVID-19 state of emergency continues to directly impact the ability of the members to meet safely in person and presents imminent risk to the health of the attendees. Therefore, no physical meeting location will be available. To access the meeting remotely, join from a PC, Mac, iPad, iPhone, or Android device using the URL https://us02web.zoom.us/822-379-0287. If you do not wish for your name to appear on the screen, use the drop-down menu and click on rename to rename yourself to be anonymous. To request to speak, use the raise hand icon on the screen. To join by phone, dial 1-669-900-6833 and enter meeting ID 822-3790-2987. If you wish to comment during the public comment portion of the agenda, press *9 and wait to be recognized.
Thank you. Yeah, we'll go ahead and move to our roll call.
Okay. Board member Meisel, Vice Chair.
Here, it's Mizell.
Mizell, my apologies. Board member Kitty Calavita.
Here.
Board member Regina Harris.
Here.
Board member Deborah Levine.
Levine, here.
Levine, my apologies.
No.
Board member John Moore.
Here.
Board member Cheryl Owens.
Here.
Board members Mayo Ramsey. And board member Ramsey is not in the meeting. Okay. Reset this time. And board member Juliet Lethwich. Also absent.
She has an excused absence.
Excused absence. Okay. Okay. And then I see there's Berkeley PD staff, Daniel Montgomery, and then there's myself, Jose Jesus Murillo, as ODPA staff.
Thank you. And yes, it looks like we are good to get started. Would you like to introduce yourself or any brief introduction for the board or?
Of course. Well, again, my name is Jose Jesus Murillo. I've been hired this week as an associate management analyst with the Office of Director of Police Accountability. I've had the pleasure of speaking with a few of you on the board during the last few days, and I'm looking forward to speak with the rest of you. I was very excited to take on this role. There's a lot of opportunity within this program, and then the vision that everybody has just makes me very excited. I graduated from UC Berkeley, so the city of Berkeley in itself holds a very special place in my heart. There's a lot of great memories from my first internship to some of just amazing community events that I've experienced while I've been here. So I'm looking forward to contribute in any way that I can. and do my best to serve this board and the community of Berkeley. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you for taking on this role and this challenge as well. We're definitely thankful to have you here and look forward to working with you.
It's my pleasure.
So we'll go ahead and go to approval of the agenda then. And I wanted to inform board members now. I plan to step away after item 6, actually, just so I can give a brief report. I've pretty significant events transpire, which I will need to address, unfortunately, tonight. I do want to make sure, obviously, we get through the election of a chairperson before that happens, but I just want to inform members now of that. But is there any motions to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Seconded.
Can I make a suggestion before we get started? So there's 9A, the regulations. I still don't think we're ready to talk about them. I thought we were waiting to hear feedback from the city attorney's office before we move forward with it. So do we need to keep that on the agenda?
It is agendized now. I mean, we could decide, to skip over the item, and I imagine we'll have unanimous consent to do that. So I don't know if we can remove it now, but that's a very good point, though, Board Member Owens. So I think we can safely disregard that as we're going to wait for the city attorney. But thank you for pointing that out. Any other concerns about the agenda?
The only other issue is 10A, since this is board member Leftwich's issue, we should probably table that for now as well.
Yes, we can table that as well. So yes, both 9A and 10A we can table, and I'm waiting for another meeting to discuss. Okay, motion to approve the agenda.
I'll make a motion, we approve it.
I will
So
second.
moved by Board Member Owens, seconded by Board Member Moore. Are there any objections? Seeing none, the motion carries by unanimous consent. And let's turn to public comment. You're muted, Mr. Murillo.
We currently have 2 raised hands. We could start with M. Rivka. I'll just be setting the timer for 3 minutes. Just one moment while I share my screen. Okay. And M. Rivka, you should now be allowed to talk.
Okay,
Oops, sorry,
thank
one
you.
moment. Okay.
Good to see you all. I haven't been able to attend lately because I'm working very hard on the campaign of Pamela Price for district attorney, who's a strong supporter of police accountability. But I'm glad to see that you're moving forward under difficult circumstances. And I just want to lend my support that you're still going to have to fight to have the PAB given the power that it was intended to have. And from the experience with the search for the DPA, I know that the city is not abiding by the powers you're supposed to have. And that's coming up again with the police chief. So I just wish you well to keep up the good fight to have a strong PAB, because we really tried in the Measure II to make it a strong PAB. And I guess the the struggle continues, because we had hoped you wouldn't have to struggle to assert the power that you were given, but it seems you do. So good luck with that. And that's it.
Thank you.
Okay. Emily, you should be allowed to speak now.
Hi, thank you very much. This is Emily Raguso. Just wanted to let everyone know, I'm sorry not to be overly self-promotional, but everyone here knows, I think, because I already said it previously, but I have a new job that will be focusing on reporting on all aspects of public safety in Berkeley. The site is berkeleyscanner.com. That's berkeleyscanner.com, and it goes live tomorrow. So I just wanted to let folks know, and currently no PAB stories on there, but I'm certain they will be coming, and along with all aspects of sort of the city's approach to fire services and policing, all kinds of, wide breadth of stories about public safety in the city. So I look forward to continuing conversations with all of you and continuing, actually really being able to ramp up efforts to report on the challenging and interesting topics you're all grappling with. So thank you for letting me speak.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And we only had 2 attendees raise their hands, and I don't see any further raised hands.
Thank you. In that case, we will move on in the agenda to item 4, our approval of the minutes from our last meeting on September 14th.
And this is Board Member Ramsey. I just wanted to let the chair know I'm present.
Thank you, board member. Yes, are there any, any questions, concerns about the minutes? Yes, Board Member Calavita.
I have a couple of concerns on page 11 of the packet, tonight's packet. This is part of the minutes that were taken at our last meeting. And in the middle of page 11, you will find, different board members' comments are listed. And in the middle is a comment by me. And in the middle of that comment, it says, my commitment to oversight and racial justice is unwavering, and so is my ability to be intimidated. That should read, not to be intimidated. And on the next page, page 12, 2/3 of the way down, again, I'm quoted, notes this report needs to be approved. This is the controlled equipment report. The controlled equipment use report needs to be approved by PAB by March. That's not what I said. I'm not sure why it says by March. I had thought that it was due to council September 20th. That turned out not to be correct. But in any case, it wasn't correct to say that I said by March. So I don't know how to correct that or how these minutes are being corrected. But I just had those 2 comments on the minutes.
Yes. Yeah, thank you for those comments, board member. And obviously these are a bit different from our usual minutes. So yeah, we can definitely make sure we correct that first one and strike that other line from the record here.
Thank you.
Mr. Rillo, were you able to follow both those changes?
I was, yes.
Yeah, thank you. Board Member Harris?
I just had one small comment on item number 10 for the nominations. I nominated Owens, and at the end it says Moore accepted rather than Owens accepted. And that's just a typo, I'm sure, but just needs to be changed to Moore. So we can just add that in.
Hey, Regina, we can barely hear you. At least I can barely hear you.
Me too.
Guys, Can you hear me now?
Not very well.
Is that any better? Is that better?
Marginally.
I can hear you, but yeah, may have to turn up the volume for other folks.
Volume way all the way up almost. Well, I don't know if everyone heard me. It was just item 10 on the nomination, my nomination of Owens. It has more accepted rather than Owens accepted. That's it. Real quick. Can you guys hear me now?
Yes, I could hear you. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, so we can definitely fix that. Just typo. Any other concerns about the minutes? Yeah, sure. Looked at the fully earlier. Okay. Okay, is there a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Approve the minutes.
Motion from, I think, Board Member Calavita, I'll say a second from Board Member Harris. Any objections? Hearing and seeing none. The minutes are approved by unanimous consent. Go to item 5 and see if I can pull up the format here. Yes, item 5, the election of chairperson and vice chairperson. Apologies, folks. I want to make sure I have the process in front of me before I get started here. And then I lost it.
Hey, Nathan, as you're pulling it up, we're only electing the chairperson, not the vice chairperson. Correct?
Yes. That's very likely what's going to happen.
Well, I don't know that.
We
but
do
I
have
mean,
it. Yeah.
I think we talked about it. We said if you became chair, and then we do another one to do the vice chair. At least that's what I thought already.
Yeah. Well, I think we could. I'm pretty sure we could nominate the vice chair if I was elected, and then have them properly elected at the next meeting. I think that would be the most accurate process from my understanding. But I'm sorry, I just had them in front of me. Mr. Brill, do you have the standing rules on this in front of you? You're muted.
Sorry, I need to get back used to the unmuting. But yes, I do have a version dated March 8th, 2022. It's a redlined version, but the elections section remains fairly unchanged.
Yes, okay. I think there's one other version. Sorry, folks, I was looking at the old version myself. I don't think we changed that process. Oh, apologies. Yeah, do board members have any issue with following that? I don't believe we substantively changed that process in any way. I think the nomination was the bigger change. I just want to make sure folks are comfortable with that. Hearing no objection to that.
Chair, we usually do chair and vice chair on the same night. I don't know.
Yes, this would be, I mean, this is going to be a bit different, certainly. Where did my clean copy go? Did any board member have a clean copy in front of them?
I do, but I don't know how to share. I can't share it. I'm on a tablet.
Okay.
But I can read it to you if you want.
Yeah, why don't you just read it?
Make sure I get it in front of me. Okay, I think I have. I'm sorry. Okay. Apologies. I have a clean copy in front of me now. Okay. So yeah, this will be a little different than usual, but we should really get through it. Okay. So yes, I will call the nomination and election process open. In accordance with section I think L1 here, there is time now for any additional nominations for chair. Are there any additional nominations? All righty, seeing no additional nominations, we will move on in the process. Excuse me, I think I'll take the prerogative to go first here, just because of what I'm going to say here. Yeah, so board members, I've thought quite a bit about the role of chair, along with the other responsibilities I have. I also received news from the city attorney's office just late this afternoon. I am appreciative of that news, that after their review of the question as to whether I could serve as both a PAB member and as a rent board commissioner if I was elected to the office, the answer is no. I could only do one. It's based off of the language in the PAB charter, or in our part of the charter anyways, where it says no officer of the city may serve, and the rent board commissioner is an officer of the city. So with that understanding, along with some additional personal things I'm going to have to deal with that have come up recently, I'm going to step back from the process or pull back on my nomination, and just allow board member Owens and board member Moore to give their cases. But I wanted to just clear that before we go forward in the process. But I do plan to remain as vice chair, so. But okay, we can then go ahead to our process then. Each nominee is allowed 2 minutes to express the reason for seeking the position. A nominee may also decline this opportunity. And then after that, board members will have an opportunity to pose questions to each candidate. So I believe if we go by last name, I believe board member Moore is up first by a couple letters.
This is true. The alphabet has me. Good evening.
One moment while I share the screen in terms of the timer. Okay.
Good evening, everyone. First, let me say that I appreciate the support, the nomination, and the belief of my fellow colleagues that I could chair this board. For me, this is a time of transition as the board is evolving, as we're bringing in new personnel, and we are attempting to create a relationship with the Berkeley Police, with the PAB, with our community as large. It's very important that we establish precedent and protocol and structure and what the powers are of this board. So for me, in these 4 months, as we transition, as we develop what this board is going to do, how we're going to operate, how we're going to proceed, I would like to humbly ask for your vote. Let me be in that position to execute for you. Let me make sure that in this position, my vision is that, we work with our community, we work with the police, we work with the PAB, but we hold the powers that we were granted by the city, by our community, as forthright and as righteous as we can to make sure that oversight and transparency are real. We have a great police force here. We have a great community. We have great stakeholders. We can all do better. And it starts with the conversation that we have here and now. And these 4 months are, I think, essential for us to build what this board will do for the city of Berkeley. So I thank you for your support.
Thank you very much, Board Member Moore. And yes, I believe based off the rules, we will go now to Board Member Owens and your opportunity for a 2-minute statement.
Thank you, Vice Chair. I was actually going to write something. I'm glad I didn't because I had my eyes dilated today, so I'm basically blind. So I'll wing it. I have thought really long and hard about this position. I believe that the primary role of the chair is to act as a representative of the board and make sure the board's work gets done. That I'll give an example. For example, things that we have submitted to the city attorney's office, get it back in a timely manner, but just get our work, help facilitate getting our work done so we can move the process forward. I think that's a critical piece for the chair to take on. I also think it's critical for the chair to work closely with the police department on behalf of the board, with the community, our new DPA staff, and glad to see Mr. Morello as part of the staff. So that's kind of what I'm about. The other thing I'm about, and you probably know this, I'm all about the charter. And the charter talks about fair and independent process. And I believe in that. So that's basically my statement. Thanks.
Thank you, Board Member Owens. So yes, next in the process, I1C of our standing rules. Well, actually, where am I going? Where am I going here? Excuse me. I2C of our standing rules. Board members pose questions to each candidate. So are there any board members who have questions for either of the two candidates, or actually to each candidate? So a question for the candidates here. Any hands, any takers? Going once, going twice. Alrighty, no questions. Okay, moving on in the process then. The presiding chair calls for a roll call vote and then announces the winners, except in defined circumstances. If there is only one nominee for the position, which there is not in this case, or 2, if there is a tie among nominees, the presiding chair will conduct a second round of voting, including any additional nominations. And 3, if a clear winner is still not identified after a second round of voting, the presiding chair will conduct a coin toss to break the tie and determine a winner. The board secretary will assign heads and tails. Well, that would be interesting, but hopefully we don't go that far. Okay, so roll call vote. First on, and I believe this is appropriate, a motion to elect Board Member Moore as chair of the Berkeley Police Accountability Board.
Are you calling roll or are you asking?
So I believe that it has to be a motion. So that's a motion I will make. And I believe I'll need a second.
Motion?
This is for the vote, to vote for Board Member Moore.
I think, can I suggest that roll
Yes.
call is similar to what happens at the beginning of the meeting, where you call each board member and they give the vote?
That is
Yeah,
in
they
fact
announce
correct.
who they're voting for.
Yes, actually, thank you, Board Member Levine. Thank you, Board Member Ramsey. That is true. I'm now remembering from I did this in the past. Yes, roll call. We're going to call the roll, and then folks will have the opportunity to give their name for chair. Yes, thank you for that correction.
Okay, so I'll be calling roll for in terms of Mr. John Moore, board member Moore.
Wait a minute, so I believe what we're doing is naming our preferred candidate.
Yes, that my apologies, Mr. Murillo. That's on me. So yeah, there will be a roll call, but folks will name the candidate they would like to select to be the chair.
Okay. I'll start with Vice Chair Mizell.
I respect both, look forward to working with both, but I will vote for board member Moore.
Board member Kitty Calavita.
Board member Moore.
Board member Regina Harris.
Board member Owens.
Board member Deborah Levine.
Board member Moore.
Board member John Moore.
I'll abstain. Can I get through that? I'm gonna do that.
Board member Cheryl Owens.
I'm gonna vote for myself.
I'm not mad at that.
Board member Ismail Ramsey.
Board member Moore.
Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4. So we have 4 votes for board member John Moore, 2 votes for board member Cheryl Owens, and 1 abstain.
Okay, well, I believe the vote is clear. Congratulations, Chair Moore, on your election here.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
As you know, as I said, I look forward to working with you as vice chair, and us having obviously regular communication going forward as we deal with quite a bit of transition in the city. And I thank board member Owens for being a part of the process, being willing to take on the important responsibilities, and certainly we know you'll be a huge contributor going forward on the board. So I look forward to working with you as well. Board member Levine, do you have a question or comment?
Well, I was going to make a comment.
Yeah, please.
Yeah, I think this process has some pitfalls to it, and I want to make sure that we continue as it has been, which I think is very collaborative amongst the entire 9 members. So I look forward to continuing to work with all 8 of you in equal respect and regard, which is high. My comments about the board is how impressed I am with all of the members. And I hope that we continue in the same collegial manner that we have so far.
Well, full agreement here. And yeah, for new board members, generally the presiding chair goes through the meeting. I will, however, step away after item 6. So I would strictly recommend the board allows the new chair to take over in that role. But okay, I believe we are good to move on then to item 6. Board member Calavita?
So I'm confused about I see.
Yeah.
So Vice Chair Mizell, you will remain Vice Chair until you have to step down given the attorney's decision, is that?
If he's elected.
If elected, I will have to step down.
Oh, you mean if elected to the rent board?
Yes.
I see.
But yeah, for today and next couple months, I remain as vice chair.
Okay.
It was good to have that on the agenda if the other thing had happened.
Yeah. So if you're elected to rent board, then we'll have an election for vice chair on December at that point.
Yeah, the board would probably nominate at that December meeting, and won't be up to me then if I'm elected, but I'd recommend the board just votes for it at the January meeting along with the chair, but I will leave that to the board to decide.
And so not only will you not be able to be vice chair, but there'll be another vacancy on the board.
There will be, if that takes place, yes.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Alrighty, thank you for this question, Board Member Calavita. So yeah, we'll go ahead and move to item 6, board members' reports. If I can start, I will just say, I had another separate conversation with the city attorney and some staff and Mr. Rodriguez from the mayor's office, and a good conversation around the memo that we are I'm waiting for in terms of the analysis of the charter and our delineated powers and where they stand. That is something that the board should see in the next couple of weeks. It will likely come in a confidential form. And it's something that even in that forum, board members will be able to have conversation with the city attorney around their questions and comments and concerns from their analysis. I do want to make sure that everyone has that update. I know we were expecting it. They are working on it and expect us to see it in the next couple of weeks. Also, and something that's not agendized tonight, but maybe worth board discussion. I was emailed by staff of the city manager's office today, where they intend to schedule police chief interviews for the board next Thursday from 1 to 5. I will say the charter prescribes some fairly specific roles for us in that process. I don't necessarily believe everything has been met as to the charter in that process. I was asked in the email what other members may be interested. I was one of them as the acting chair and vice chair. But it's certainly worth our conversation as to who may be on that panel, or I think perhaps a better view saying that panel needs to be delayed for us to make a more concrete decision and one we could vote on about who would be on the panel, if it would be a subcommittee, would they report back to us? I don't think the Thursday timeline gives us time to answer or at least formally vote on those questions. And I'm hoping that we can have communication with the city manager's office on that question shortly here. But that is where that currently stands. I certainly don't think the board would be out of line to assert its powers in the charter and to ask for a process that would allow us to exercise, or at least have the opportunity to exercise the fully delineated powers in the charter and potentially form a subcommittee. So I believe that's my report out. Yeah, I think that's what I have at the moment. Board Member Owens.
So I just wanted to bring up that the annual report for our board was issued probably like a month ago. And per the charter, it's supposed to come to us first, or basically we're supposed to adopt it, and then it goes to the mayor and city council. But I think it went directly to the mayor and city council when it was sent to us. So I just kind of wanted to bring that up. That's in the charter, section 16(6)(c), that we're supposed to adopt it first before it goes to the mayor and the city council. So I'm not sure what we want to do about it because it's already gone to them, but I just wanted to bring it up.
Yes, that is a good point. Yeah, I will admit I'm not fully aware of where the report, I have seen the report, but I'm not sure where it is in terms of council seeing it, but I'm certain that is accurate and probably an issue worth discussing with the city attorney as well. Yeah, unfortunately, these are definitely issues we're running into. Board Member Levine?
Yeah, I mean, I wanted to say something else, but I think what Board Member Owens, actually, it's connected to the other thing. What Board Member Owens is saying is very important. We get bypassed in many of these important processes, and I think we have to be firm about and clear and articulate to all the powers that be and in the city. And of course, we don't have a director, but we will. But these things need to be addressed promptly and clearly so that we aren't bypassed. Now, my question before Board Member Owens spoke was with regard to what you said, Vice Chair Mizell, which is, it wasn't clear to me. You said you got a letter that talked about the chief of police being hired, and I don't believe it was something that we got a copy of, we being the board members. Am I right?
Yeah, so prior to the email I received today, I had been invited along with community members, 2 community members, the police union, some other city staff members, to be a part of an initial, from my understanding, an initial interview panel for the police chief. That was last week. I was unable to participate because of my health and some other things going on. But what was clear to me at the time was obviously we have a role in the process. We need to be a part of the interview panels. I was not sure how that would be communicated. It was communicated to me today, and I believe, yeah, it's just me based off how the email was framed, inviting me and then asking me about other members who may be interested. I brought that up precisely because I don't quite think that's supposed to be the process. I think it's a discussion we're supposed to have as a board. And unfortunately, it was emailed to me today. It's not on the agenda for tonight, so we're in a bit of a bind in terms of the formal action we can take, but we can certainly agree that that's not something, or for instance, on Thursday, we want to move forward unless we felt like we've had a conversation as a board. And I certainly cannot promise, but I would expect that the city manager's office would honor that and at least give us the opportunity to discuss as a board more thoroughly. I don't believe, let me read the actual language of the charter here. I don't know to what level we were consulted. I would say based off of the fact the email only came to me, the board wasn't consulted on this particular matter at all because I am not the board. And it was not in any formal meeting. So I think there's fair questions about whether the charter has been followed properly. I don't think it was necessarily intentional, but I think it's something we should assert as an issue.
Well, yes, clearly, and my point is, what you just said is an understatement. We is a plural, and you getting an email. First, okay, so my proposal is that you share the email, that we communicate our interest and the requirement be fulfilled of the charter, that we have a voice. And how we decide to do that, we can do when we agendize it. The community may have an interest in this. One of the public speakers today complained about past decisions that sidelined us. So I would move that we communicate clearly in writing that the board wants to be a part of this process as required, and that this, whatever thing, what is it, a panel for, you said, for Thursday?
I believe it would be a panel.
Tomorrow?
No, for next Thursday,
Thursday.
October.
Okay.
October 6th.
Well, this should be communicated in writing by us that we don't want it to take place until we have clear discussion and recommendation as to our role in this process. And if that's not clear enough for a motion, then you can go on and talk to Board Member Calavita, and I'll come up with something.
No, I have zero opposition to that motion. I'd only ask if DPA Chang has an opinion in terms of the fact that it's not agendized.
No.
Yes, we had discussed this matter earlier with the chair, and our suggestion at the time was that if action is to be taken regarding the search for a new police chief, that should be done with a special meeting. And that can be noticed on 24-hour notice. So it could be later this week. It could also be a very brief meeting, even, just 15 minutes, just call to order for the purpose of passing that motion. But because it is not on the agenda for tonight, we had advised that the more conservative approach would be to call a special meeting and place that on the agenda.
Yeah, and there is advisement, but I think unfortunately we end up in these type of binds where the Brown Act, which does a brilliant job of protecting the rights of the public often, but then can also conflict and kind of hurt the public at times. I think this is one of those times. I would recommend the board try to call a special meeting. I know that has many issues itself for next week, to have a brief conversation about that and hopefully a quick vote on that, just so our message can be sent clearly as a board. I'm happy, along with, I'm sure that Chair Moore, to voice quite clearly what the majority opinion of board members is, but that is not as strong as obviously us passing the motion you mentioned, Board Member Levine. I believe I'm sorry, was Board Member Owens, what were you waiting for, Board Member Calavita? Okay, Board Member Calavita.
Board Member Calavita is before me, and I actually want to talk about something else, but I don't want to derail this conversation.
Okay.
So two things. One, I'm confused. If we were to have a special meeting, that would be for the purpose of forming a subcommittee, I assume, and then letting the city manager know to postpone the panel, I guess, something like that. I wanted also to say, though, the charter amendment, it's section 22, where it makes very clear city manager shall consult with the Police Accountability Board or subcommittee of the board on the job requirements, application process, and evaluation of candidates for the chief of police. So I just wanted to add the information that a long time ago, I was appointed by the city to be on a steering committee for the hiring of the police chief. And I was the only PAB person on a committee of community members, about maybe total 5 people. And we met several times about job requirements in the application process. And I, at that time, complained might be too hard, but pointed out that the charter amendment said that the PAB itself, or a subcommittee thereof, should do those things. And I was assured, kind of, asking me to back off, I was assured that we would have that role later in the process, especially during the interview evaluation process, which is actually in conflict with what the charter amendment says. But anyway, okay. So, but I haven't heard anything. It's been many, many, many months since that steering committee met. And I had a hard time getting any information about where we were in the process. And now here we are at the interview process, at the point at which I was told, I was assured back then that we would be fully involved at this point. And, you know, the October 6th panel was put together. And I believe somebody somewhere noticed, oh, we're supposed to involve the PAB. And that's when Nathan got a call. So, you know, it's of great concern. So I don't know what we're going to do about it, but, you know, I'd be in favor of having this special meeting, but I think that we should respond firmly to what this process has been.
And Board Member Kelly, I'll say, yeah, I recall you bringing up those concerns when it first happened. And I recall the, you know, then the assurance that we would have a role as is delineated in the charter earlier in the process than we have. I don't think that's in dispute. And I do hope that that is heard. Former Owens.
This isn't directly related to that, but kind of indirectly. It's related to what's going on with the process with the director, because I think this is something that the director could have run point for us on it, you know, in terms of the hiring of the chief, making sure that, you know, city staff was aware that the PAB should have been part of this process and blah, 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 blah. So I'm just kind of curious if anybody knows where we're at with the hiring of the director. Not that that will help. Well, it may help a little bit, but not that it will help with, you know, the current process that's going on with getting police chief hired. But hopefully it will help to make sure people are aware of when they're supposed to include the PAB in the process, because, you know, the director hopefully will know this charter, you know, and we'll be able to step in for us and run point. But does anybody know what's going on? Any sort of timeline? I mean, I honestly, I also agree with everybody's comments as it relates to the hiring of the police chief, because, you know, I honestly vaguely remember something about Board Member Calavita doing some stuff related to it. But I personally thought nothing was really going on, to be honest, because I hadn't heard anything.
Yeah.
So it was kind of surprising to me to hear that they're ready to do the interview panel. Only because, I mean, like I said, I read this charter and I do remember reading that, you know, we're supposed to be part of the process. So I was kind of surprised by it. But does anybody know anything about the director and the timing on that?
Yes, and I truly apologize. I did not mention this earlier. It's been a bit of a day, but to my knowledge, council has selected a person. I do not have a timeline on when precisely they will be here or what their start date is. I have no timeline on that. I just know they have moved forward in their evaluation, and I believe a person has been selected for the position.
Do you know when they're going to put on the calendar to appoint them? Because when they appoint them, that'll tell us.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I do not know.
Okay, thanks.
You know who it is?
I was on an interview panel, so there's only so many possibilities, but yeah, I can't answer that question, even if I was certain.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and again, I want to also, and you know, Chair Moore will be taking over obviously here in a second, and I want to stress just, you know, my intention under this little time as interim chair has been to try to remain as transparent as I can. I think, unfortunately, because of the circumstances, a lot of information has been kind of funneled to me. And hopefully, once we get, obviously we have Mr. Murillo on board now, and hopefully a director shortly here, information can keep going, through channels that make sure everyone hears about it at the same time. It's really not my intention to try to hold or know things. I don't have a reason to, really. But that's just kind of been one of the realities of, not having staff in place and I guess decisions having to be made. But I'm glad we're moving back to having staff and moving towards a place where board members can hopefully be informed of all this stuff at the same time as me. But yeah, I wanted to just say that I know there's been a lot of stuff that's come up, and yeah, it's been a bit difficult at times to carry out my role, which also requires me to work under the Brown Act and how I delineate information. But anyways, it's not about me, just about the process issues. Board Member Harris, do you have a question?
Sorry, so the, just for clarification, the interview panel is next week on Thursday, next Thursday, you said, or?
Yes, so when I received the email originally, I responded back saying that for me, Thursday afternoon would work best, based on my schedule. I did, of course, review the charter again to make sure, did this step happen? Did I miss when we, did we talk about this and I wasn't quite there? Reviewed that. We still haven't had the discussion at the board level. And again, I believe the city manager will respect us on that. That is certainly my sincere hope. I would say it was a very dedicated staff member of the city attorney's, the city manager's office, but based on my conversation, they are new to city, or at least to the board and its functioning. So I don't think that was sent out, at least by them, as to ignore the charter. I don't think they may have been aware, and they were simply instructed to send that email to me. But yes, it's right now set for 1 to 5 on Thursday. I believe it's October 6th. And I would recommend that we do try to hold even a brief meeting to give our formal response to that. But I think our consensus on needing to have more involvement is pretty clear.
Okay, I know that it's a process and we're gonna have to make sure that these things are taken care of and not duplicated. It's just the bottom line. But if we're gonna do a special meeting, we're gonna have a special meeting, then I would propose that we do it sooner than later.
Yeah.
So that those schedules can stay the same, because nothing is gonna change to that point anyway. It's just a matter of making sure that it doesn't happen again in the future at this point, because it's done.
Well, I
would like to, just let me finish. I know people are gonna.
I'm sorry.
But I'm just thinking of the convenience of the candidates as well. It's not just about us, but they schedule these candidates to come in. These are, people who are applying to be our chiefs. So, their time is valuable as well. And I think we need to consider that. And if we want to move forward with something, let's do it and get ourselves prepared for next Thursday. Whoever's going to sit that down. That would be my recommendation.
Yep.
Board Member Levine?
Yeah, and I would move that we have, if at all possible, this special meeting tomorrow. And let's maybe do hands of who can participate tomorrow.
Most likely.
Oops, mine's up.
At least if it's short. I mean, we need 24
So I
hours to
think we
notice. I
could
think
get a
that's,
quorum then.
we can't do, well, we could do it tomorrow if we do it after like 9, maybe.
Nine 9 a.m., 9 p.m.?
No, it'd have to be 9 p.m. DCA Chang was probably going to tell us that.
Yes, so I was just going to point out that the notice period for a special meeting is 24 hours.
Okay.
So, and it's 24 hours after the notice is posted to the website. And so, you know, you wouldn't be able to do it until late evening tomorrow if we posted it this minute. So I'd suggest that probably the day after tomorrow would be the earliest that you could feasibly do it. And then you could, the staff, Mr. Murillo could post the notice tomorrow morning.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can I modify my motion?
So can I ask a question before you?
Yeah.
Modify your motion? So I just want to clarify, what is it we're supposed to achieve in this special meeting? Because it sounded like at first there was a dispute about being part of the process. But then based on Board Member Harris's comment, it seemed like everybody agreed that, you know, it's kind of water under the bridge. So now what we're doing is focusing on who's going to participate in the interview process next Thursday. So I just want to make sure I understand what this special meeting is for.
To form a subcommittee.
Okay, because it sounded like in the beginning, it was, let's form a subcommittee and basically respond to the fact that we weren't included in part of the process.
Oh, well, that's not, yeah.
And I mean, I agree with Board Member Harris that I think we're too far past that point to do that. I don't think that we shouldn't say something about not being part of the process, but it sounds like Board Member Calavita did have some potentially impact on some of this process. So it's not quite that the PAB was totally out of the loop. It just seems like there was a big gap in between what Board Member Calavita participated in till today. Am I missing something?
Well, you know, the charter amendment says the PAB or a subcommittee thereof. And I, on a panel of other community members, I mean, I certainly wasn't a subcommittee. And so I consider that part really not having been realized. But in any case, I do agree with you, Board Member Owens and also Board Member Harris, that this special meeting should be about forming a subcommittee to be on the interview panel. Is that what people envision?
I have another question. Maybe Vice Chair Mizell can answer it. How many people are they looking for?
They're not looking for anyone.
Well,
so I can answer the question. I'm forwarding an email to Mr. Murillo right now, so folks can just see it themselves. But I was asked, along with myself, who else from the PAB would want to be included in the process. I think there's a process issue in that that's not really even the city manager's office place to really ask, because it was always our decision to make. I don't think from the staff person that was an intentional issue, but that is the issue of process. I think at a special meeting, we could consider the question of, you know, what process we would want to see. And it is a requirement that the city manager consult with us. And if we don't believe that has happened, that is an issue we can raise. Or perhaps at a special meeting, now that, this is public, the city manager is going to see it, perhaps she or her representative can be at the meeting to actually consult with us about it. And, go over, this may have to take some closed session format. I'm not sure, but we go over questions, what are the parameters? This was an issue, we ran into on the DPA side where I was on the panel that came up pretty quickly. I had no decision-making power, even though we had the whole DPA subcommittee and folks, I had no power over what the questioning was whatsoever. I couldn't ask anything outside of what had already been prescribed. And frankly, I have my misgivings about how that process was handled. In this case, the charter is more explicit that we have a role in this. So I think we could accomplish, looking at what role and what do we want to have from those interviews, since that would be our panel interviews, to the extent the charter allows. I think we could look at what the membership is of that panel and whether that constitutes a subcommittee that will report back to us in some form. And I think we could, hopefully, if the city manager or someone else is present, have a conversation about ensuring that these new powers are fully respected. And I also say, and this is really not meant as pushback at all, just a different viewpoint. I would think, any person who is potentially going to become the chief of Berkeley Police Department would understand the need to respect, if anything, the charter of the city, beyond even convenience of interviews or having to reschedule, which I'm not saying isn't difficult or arduous at times. It can be, but the charter is the charter. It's supposed to be the most immutable document in the city. And I don't think that's been our experience as a board on a number of issues. But that's, just one viewpoint. Real fast, can I go to DCA Chang? Do you have a point? DCA Chang, are you there? Is that an old hand?
Sorry, it's an old hand. Let me
Okay.
lower it. Sorry about that.
Sorry. Board Member Harris.
Sorry, that was an old hand.
Oh. Board Member Levine.
Yeah, I move that we schedule as soon as possible, which I guess is Friday, based on the advice we've received, a special meeting. At that time, I'm in favor of creating a subcommittee to participate in the hiring process of the chief. If others at the special meeting want to let water go under the bridge and not have a subcommittee, they can address it at the meeting. We're not voting here on what the special meeting will accomplish, but I'm forecasting what my position is. I want to communicate that we need to be part of this process, and there's still time to do that. I am particularly firm in this view because of my experience on the subcommittee for hiring the director. We were sidelined. The process continued without us, no communication. The city manager was actively involved on the front end where they didn't have a role according to the charter. And as a result, we're here at September 28th without a director. And I do think there's some responsibility to be aware of language in the charter if you're a city manager or have some other position in the city attorney's office, on a board, or certainly in the hiring process for the chief of police. So I don't have an innocent oversight view. I have a little more nefarious view of the process, since it seems to mimic what happened to the subcommittee I was on.
Yeah,
So
thank
the
you,
motion
Board.
is to have the meeting, I guess, is we're talking Friday, and Friday the 30th. And we can't vote on the substantive parts now anyway, I assume. So I just make a motion that we have a special meeting on Friday.
Yes, that is an appropriate motion. I will second that. And in case there is some issue that arises, I'll also tell our new chair that you have the power to call a special meeting as delineated in the commissioner's manual if needed. But I will second that motion. Board Member Owens, do you have another comment?
Yeah, I would like to suggest that we get someone from the city manager's office or the HR department, whoever would be the appropriate person, if we can attend our special meeting, just so we get an understanding of kind of where things are in the process, what we can and can't impact with the process going forward. So if possible, I'd like to recommend that we request one of either the city manager staff or HR staff, just give us more information.
Mhm.
They work,
Yes.
they work Friday.
Yes. So here's my suggestion, folks. We can take it or leave it. Probably the safest action is to have the new chair call a special meeting and agendize those topics for Friday. I only say that because it's very clear from the Commissioner's Manual that is the power he has, regardless of tonight's agenda. I believe we also have that power, but that's maybe slightly more rocky. I know, strange that the chair would have a power the board does not have, but a quorum of the board can also call a special meeting. I don't know if that has to be agendized. Apologize that I don't know every inch of the Brown Act, but in the same exact vein as what you said, Board Member Levine, I would suggest that we have the new chair call that meeting and communicate that to Mr. Murillo and to Maritza as well. And in that role, we can ask the chair, and I'm happy to as well, obviously, to speak with the city attorney's office and see if we can have someone there for that conversation. I think we can agendize something that's fairly broad, but still specific to this general topic that will allow us room to discuss the different issues we pointed out, while still constraining it, obviously, to this important role that we have, as the charter would indicate, in this process.
Can we have like a rough roll call of who can come so we make sure we have a quorum? And also, I have a car trip planned, so I'm going to squeeze it in some location far and near, so I can stop driving and go somewhere with internet or something. But so just can we make sure that we have a quorum before we set this up, and maybe have a conversation about time?
Yeah, we can definitely have a conversation about whether we'd be able to attend. I believe I'll be able to attend. I'm putting at about 85% right now.
What time are you talking about? Like our regular meeting time?
Yeah, I mean, that's where it gets more dicey. I could probably do our regular meeting time. I could maybe do a little bit earlier myself. But obviously, where do other members stand on that?
Well, let's hear from everybody. The more, it's important to have people there.
Oh yeah, Board Member Moore?
I'll make myself available for Friday. Whenever time that a quorum can be made, I'll be there.
Thank you.
I can be there too, but it seems to me that maybe getting city staff here earlier would be better.
If a quorum can be created earlier in the day, I would probably suggest that in terms of the availability of city staff.
Yeah.
It's likely I won't be able to before 5, but I can try. Board Member Owens or Harris or Ramsey, any comments in terms of timing?
I am not available in the morning. I'm only available 2 o'clock afterwards. I can do.
Yeah, same here.
That's good.
Yeah, this is Board Member Ramsey. I'm not available on Friday.
Okay.
Board Member Harris, what did you say?
I said I'm available. I'm flexible, so.
Okay, thank you.
Time after 2 works for me too.
So how many people do we have?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We have 5
And that includes vice,
after 2. 5 of us after 2 can do it, and possibly 6. Possibly Board Chair, Vice Chair Maisel,
Yeah.
right?
Whether I'm available at that time on Friday is very much an open question. But after 5, I can. But again, I think it's more important that we have staff from the city manager's office there, certainly, than if I am there. And I think, it'd be a lot more difficult to deny the request if the meeting's at 3 p.m. than if it's at 6 or 7.
but if it were at 6 or 5:30, it seems to me it'd be important for you to be there, Vice Chair Mizell, because you were the person who was originally contacted.
Could you do 5:30 or 6? We're bargaining here for time.
Well, yeah, let me look at the calendar. Pretty sure I can.
Can I make a suggestion?
Yes.
That we, if Vice Chairman Mizell can make it at 5:30 and the city staff can make it, that we have the meeting at 5:30. If the city staff can make it at 2 or whatever our earlier time was.
4, maybe.
Yeah, personally, I mean, I appreciate Vice Chair Mizell, but I think it's really important to hear from city staff. So if city staff is only available, earlier, that we go forward with the meeting, from at 2 or whatever earlier time we select. I think it's really key to have them there, because I think, I know that board members are concerned about the charter not being followed, but I'm not sure what or how we can impact this process going forward. So I just think it's important to have the city staff there to tell us.
Well, oops.
And the only thing I'd say is a suggestion. So what we can do is, we've had this discussion. I think we're all clear about having a meeting on this Friday. That gives us time to communicate with city staff. And if so, for instance, Chair Moore could call the meeting at, let's say he calls for the meeting at 11 a.m. on Thursday, and then we get the agenda out by, let's say, 1:30 or 2 p.m. on Thursday. That would be the 24 hours we need to have a special meeting on Friday at 2 p.m. or after 2 p.m. So we don't have to vote on that right now, because that power, I can give people the section just so they can see it in the commissioner's manual here. But that's very clear in the commissioner's manual. That's the power the chair has. And we have a quorum for that meeting anyways. But I think that's probably the best course of action. That gives myself, Chair Moore, Mr. Murillo time to communicate with staff, and to try to build around the time they could work with, versus if we set it right this second and we are locked into a time. So I think that's probably the best course of action.
Mr. Murillo, will you be available at that time?
Yes.
Good.
Which time?
Friday after 2 sometime.
Yeah.
Yeah. Either of the proposals work for me, just
Thank you.
as long as we have time.
Okay. So yeah, I think we're all on the same page on that.
So do we need to make a motion to call the special meeting on Friday sometime after 2 or no?
No, I don't think we're allowed
No.
to. We're not allowed to take action on this right now.
Right,
Okay.
Yes, and
the new chair can do it.
yeah, and just so folks may feel a little more comfortable, it's page, well, at least of this newer copy of the Commissioner's Manual, it's page 37, item 3, duties of officers. And it's the like second to last bullet point, the chair or a quorum of the commission may call a special meeting. And yeah, this is one section I've read a couple of times. So yes, so that's power Chair Moore will have. He and I know Mr. Murillo as well, we'll do our best to communicate with staff to have city manager or her staff present. And once that is done, communicate back out with a set meeting time for Friday. Okay, ready. So it is still board members' reports. Are there any other reports for board members? And then I will try to do what I can tonight. Okay, hearing the reports out, as I indicated earlier, I'm going to step away at this point. I thank board members for bearing with me as my time as interim chair here, but I'm happy and really honored to pass over to Chair Moore. And as I said, look forward to working with him and the board going forward. So have a good night, everybody, and good luck with the rest of the meeting.
Thank you.
Good night, Nathan. All right, so if we could just move over to Chief of Police reports.
All right. So I have in the interest of time, I'm going to give you a semi-brief update. So I don't know if you guys heard today, but today OPD had a shooting at a school around lunchtime. 6 people were shot, all adults. 3 were in critical condition and transported. And at that time, they believing they had an active shooter because of the proximity of the school, they called for emergency support, and we sent a dozen officers that way. They quickly realized that it was a shooting in the street near the school and canceled us, but we were happy to be able to respond and support what we thought was an active shooter at the time. To update our officers this month are wrapping up an update on active shooters. We have so many officers since our last active shooter training that we're putting all our officers back through, in which we do on a routine scenarios so that everybody's ready for it. And so we're wrapping up the last group this month, officers outside of operations. So it's a kind of a reminder that, these things happen. They're unfortunate, they happen, and that we have to be prepared for them. And I want to share a little bit of statistical information through August, and when this has gone up since, but through August, we've had 36 shootings. Last year through August, we had 27. This year, we've already seized 75 guns through August. And those guns were, 48 of them were recovered related to calls for service. 9 of them were related to proactive police stops, and 18 of them were related to detectives' investigations. So we're tracking that information, and we're working to get it up on the Transparency Hub so you can kind of get a sense, the public can get a sense for, what we're facing and how we do our work and where we're, making a difference in terms of reducing violence. We're also, we've had a couple of different meetings with Terry Taplin's office launching the new ceasefire Berkeley here in Berkeley. So we've had some meetings with some stakeholders, and we're getting that off the ground as well, based on his counsel item. So that is, I want to give you a staffing update as well. We have a total staffing of 150 officers right now. 13 officers are out injured. 3 of the 150 are still in the academy. And we have several people out on other kinds of leaves other than injury, parental leaves and whatnot, putting us right around 130 officers, which is, if not an all-time low, very near an all-time low in staffing. We had a physical agility test and interview for new hires this weekend, and we only had 7 applicants apply. So the job market is incredibly tight, and competitive. And we're, in need of people. So for the community, if people are interested in jobs at the police department, we have jobs in all classifications, and we'd love to have people from the community come out and apply. And we think that's a strong model. We'd love to have lots of applicants, and we have lots of jobs. So that's my report for the chief.
Thank you very much. Moving on to subcommittee reports.
Whoa, I have a question.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I did not see that. Board Member Owens, question.
Yeah, I have a couple quick questions. One is related to the increase in shootings. Is there any theory or thought behind why? And then my second question is related to the hiring process. Is there any incentivizing going on with either applicants, or if current officers or members of the police department refer somebody? Is there anything going there to kind of help that process?
Yeah, so regarding the shootings, that's, there's a lot of guesswork involved in that, other than I can tell you, this is certainly the sense of the officers that coming out of COVID, things are starting to pick back up. We're starting to get more serious crime reports, more activity in the streets. And so that goes for shootings as well. But the exact, reason why they're up is always kind of hard to identify. And we're hoping that a lot of the data analysis that we're going to do related to the ceasefire may give us more insights into that, more kind of bonds and connectivity with the community around problem solving, around violence, may give us more ideas on that. But right now it's a little hard to divine. Related to incentives, no, we do not currently have any active incentives for either recruiting or referrals or incentives for lateral hires right now, and that we're able to pay out. Some of those ideas are in the works, and you may have seen many agencies in the area have turned to that kind of strategy because the whole entire industry is facing real difficulty at hiring right now. So anyway, it's a difficult time for hiring and recruiting.
Thank you.
Anybody else with questions?
I may have missed it, Lieutenant, but did you say whether the shooter in Oakland were they arrested, shot, or did they get away?
My understanding is the shooters fled the scene and were not taken into custody yet, but I don't want to, I don't have the latest on that either. That was as of a few hours ago.
I see. And my other question was, you said there were only 7 applicants this time around. Is that way down from other years?
When I was hired, I tested with about 400 applicants.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it's significantly down.
Wow.
And we have our hiring rate is qualification rates probably below 10%, below 5%, depending. We are finding that they're a little more concentrated now than they were prior, but if we're lucky, that might yield a candidate if we're very lucky.
Thank you.
Board Member Harris?
Oh, what about me?
Oh,
I'm gonna ask,
Board Member Levine. I got you next.
oh, I'm sorry.
No, it's okay.
Okay. I was just gonna ask about, that's really puzzling that there were only 7 applicants. That's crazy. But have you guys done anything or changing anything about the recruiting process? I mean, that's a really low number as far as outreach and that type of thing in the community.
Yeah, that one change is that we went to open continuous hiring, where we see a pool of candidates and then we put on a physical agility to try and accelerate the hiring process. Because what we were seeing was that with our periodic, say quarterly or semi-annual tests, we were losing candidates to other agencies who could act quickly. But that overall, that's extremely low. We would expect a lot more in a normal kind of hiring environment.
I need to get those incentives in place.
Board Member Levine?
Yeah, I just couldn't hear. Did you say there were multiple shooters in the Oakland school shooting? Plural?
That's the information that Oakland has put out. There may have been multiple shooters.
Oh.
It wasn't a school shooting, right? It was out on the street.
It was near a school, like on the street.
Near a high school.
Is my understanding, yeah. So, and that's what led them to think, oh no, it's related to school. So anyway. There are probably more details coming out about that, but that's the limited information I know right now.
Board Member Harris, do you still have your hand up? Do you have another question?
Sorry, I lowered.
It's okay. All right. Thank you very much for your report, Lieutenant Montgomery. I think we're ready to move on. And that will take us to subcommittee reports. This will be quick as there's not going to be much to report. And as our subcommittees have been tabled from our work. So I don't know, Board Member, would you like to go with the update on the dissolve or renewed director search subcommittee? Or do we want to just table that until we know what's happening? And maybe we can talk about that at the special meeting?
Yeah, let's table it until we know more.
Sounds good to me. How does the rest of the board feel? Is there anybody that would like to comment or has a reaction to that?
No.
Okay, so that brings us to the regulations subcommittee. I know that we have tabled item 9A. So, that goes without saying. We're going to still wait for the ODPA. Well, no, I'm sorry, for the city attorneys to get back to us on that information. And from what I've heard from Vice Chair, should be coming in the next couple of weeks. So we'll table that until we get that. The Control of the Equipment Subcommittee, I am a member of. The last time we had discussed this subcommittee, I said we need to keep it because the work that we're doing is ongoing. But I also welcome participation from my other board members, as we can't have community members join yet. But I know that you guys are still out there and there's a lot of work to do. And this takes a lot of knowledge base to get going. But once we get there and once the board has, collectively an understanding of this equipment subcommittee, any and all of us can serve. So I just wanted to leave that there. Does anybody have anything they'd like to add to either the regulations subcommittee or the controlled equipment subcommittee?
No, but I like to bring up fair and impartial, which Board Member Calavita is our chair, but I think we were actually ready to meet, and our holdback was we didn't have staff. So I was just wanted to ask Board Member Calavita, now that we have a staff member, are you ready to set a meeting for that, our subcommittee?
That's a good idea, and I'll be getting people's calendars together to try to figure out that. I'm actually going away for 10 days starting Monday.
Okay.
But yes, and we've been, I should say to the rest of the board that I have circulated things to the subcommittee members because in the absence of having actual meetings, because we learned some time ago that ad hoc subcommittees are not required to follow the Brown Act, and therefore I have circulated some materials and we've had a little bit of a discussion like that. And so, but we should have a meeting, and as soon as I get back from my trip, I will, I can schedule it now, but it will be not for a couple of weeks.
Great. So that brings us to the item 9A we're unable to do. We're tabling. Item 10A we're tabling until Board Member Leftwich returns. That takes us to public comment. Are we ready?
Yes. Currently, we only have 2 attendees in the meeting. Do any of the attendees currently still here have any additional public comment? And I do not see any hands going up as of this moment.
Okay, let's give them one more minute, see if we have any public comment. Okay. Not seeing or hearing any community outreach for public comment. I ask for a motion to adjourn this meeting.
So moved.
Seconded.
Excellent. Thank you guys for making that my first painless semi-meeting. I appreciate that.
Good job.
Hey, we got through it.
We're here for you, Chip.
Thank you. And I'm gonna be calling on you, Cheryl. I've got some work that we can do. I've got this subcommittee here. I think we should do some work on. We're gonna talk about it.
Okay, stop with the recruiting.
And thank,
I can't help it.
All right.
All right. Good night, everybody.
thank you, Jose.
Good night. It was a pleasure.
Fine.